F1 25 My Team Career Mode for Season 1, round number 13, the United States Grand Prix. Our first time here in Cota, Texas, Circuit of the Americas. And we start with a lot of meetings. Firstly, a meeting with Esteban Ocon, the final meeting with Ocon. And yep, he has lowered his expectations of the team. However, still a much higher salary than pretty much anybody else wants. So we're probably not going to go with Ocon, but we'll see how that goes. Then we have Jack Doohan, his final one as well. His salary is actually quite low. It's down there with Paul Aaron's actually. So he's definitely an option, but he's probably the one I'm at least out of, I mean, Ocon, I'm not really that interested in getting this season. I think he's a bit too far away. Then we've got Behrman, who is the one I'm the most interested in getting for next season. His vehicle performance ranking is quite high. However, his salary, 4 million, that's okay. So he's the one that I am most wanting to get for the next season. As we now go through some development stuff, some research stuff, as we always do. Lots of things to do here. We just kind of blitz through them all. There's so much research and development in this game compared to the previous games. It's kind of insane, to be honest. I'm wondering if for next season I need to, because at the moment I just have all this, the money settings, the R&D settings on default. I'm wondering if I need to put them lower down because we are doing a lot of upgrades at the moment and we have a lot of money. So I think I'm going to see how it looks after, you know, we've got our drivers for next season and the payouts of those. Yeah, that might take a chunk of money out, but I don't really know how it works. End of the season, we'll probably get quite a bit of money anyway, because of course, you know, finishing the season, you get money for that depending on where you place in the season. So I don't know how that's all going to work out, but now we have the contract window and we're looking at Oliver Behrman because he is the one that I mainly want to send a contract to, and that's what we're going to do. I decided to go with this higher likelihood, 88% chance to sign. It's a slightly higher salary, but we're going to go with that because I really want him on the team next season. Looking at R&D, we are the 7th fastest car on paper, which I think is where we were last time. We may have moved up a position, I'm not quite sure. But we are right there, basically on top of Williams. I think we're actually just slightly ahead of Williams now. Or maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... No, we are just behind Williams, although it looks like we're pretty much on pace with them. McLaren still really lagging behind. They're actually getting caught by Aston Martin now, so it'll be interesting to see how they finish off the season. Because remember, McLaren are still leading the Constructors' Championship. They have been since the first round of this season. So with their fall off in pace these last few races, can they keep that Constructors' Championship hopes? Can they keep those hopes going? As we get into SQ1, because yes, it is finally another sprint race weekend. Only, I believe, our second of 3 sprint weekends for this season. Sainz goes quickest in Q1. We managed to go P2. I'm not 100% sure why that was. It might have been because of rain coming down or something. I can't really remember. But yeah, we're P2. Sullivan, unfortunately, is P22, dead last. So not so great for him here in sprint qualifying, as we then go into SQ2. So yeah, another sprint race. We haven't done a sprint race since China, so it's been a long time. Only 3 sprint races this season, and yeah, just the way I did the calendar, you can't choose. The only tracks you can do sprint races on are the tracks that are actually having sprint races on them in 2025 in real life. I think that's something they really should change for future F1 games. Make it that you can do a sprint on any track, you know? It would add so much more variety to the game if you could each season choose different races to have sprints at. Because if you want sprints, you need to do, you know, some of those sprint races. SQ2, Lewis Hamilton and Oscar Piastri both out in SQ2. That's a bit of a surprise. We tend to have at least one of those kind of top teams go out, but yeah, to have 2 there out in SQ2 is a little bit of a shock. And it means that we, with Paul Aaron, are into SQ3. Feeling good around here. The car is feeling very good here in Austin, Texas. Circuit of the Americas, a track that I do enjoy quite a lot. I really do quite like this track. And yeah, we're feeling good in this sprint qualifying session as we round the final corner to cross the line. And in the end, we actually go P7. It's a very good result. However, Nico Hulkenberg's there in P6, so he's had a very good qualifying in the Sauber. To be P6 and ahead of us is pretty crazy. Other than that, though, it's Charles Leclerc on sprint pole with Max Verstappen alongside him, and then George Russell in 3rd. Let's see what this sprint race has on offer.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Russell, Tsunoda, Lando Norris, and Hülkenberg, Aaron, Antonelli, Albon, and Esteban Ocon, Piastri, Hamilton, Lance Stroll, and Gasly, Behrman, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, and Isaac Hadjar, Doohan, Lawson, Bortoletto, and Zach O'Sullivan rounds off the grid. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
Here we go. It is sprint pole time. For some reason, they still say which driver will get pole position. That's not how the sprint races work anymore, but that's what the commentator says. As we get underway, it is a decent start for us, a decent start for Hülkenberg as well. I'm very surprised that he's managed to get up into P6. He's had a really good qualifying here, and I thought we were having a really good qualifying. Unfortunately, around turn 1, we do go backwards though. Kimi Antonelli managing to get past us through turn 1 and round to turn 2, which means that we have now dropped down to P8. But I'm not necessarily expecting to be fighting right here. Although, to be fair, our car is now right there with the Williams, right there with, just behind the Aston Martin, and just behind McLaren as well. So, the field has bunched up quite a lot in this mid to late part of this first season. So, we should be expecting to be fighting at least at the bottom end of the top 10 for the majority of this season, really. So I'm hoping that we can do something here. As we go down off this big straight, Kimi Antonelli gets past Nico Hülkenberg. No DRS even enabled yet, but he's managed to get that move done. So that is very good for him. He will be wanting to get a good result here. He just missed out on a podium. I believe it was the last time out, actually, Kimi Antonelli. He was looking at a podium, but unfortunately was not able to convert. So here he's going to try and do a bit better, up to P6 already, making good progress. Already made 2 positions ahead of us. Actually might be more than 2. Oh no, I think he did start actually just behind us. So he has just made up the 2 positions. As we head around the final corner, Leclerc crosses the line in first. So he's managed to keep the lead at the start of this race. We come across the line in P8, currently in the final points paying position for this sprint race. George Russell is trying to make amends for his poor season. He's had flashes of good results, but all in all has had a very unlucky and not so great season here in 2025. He though gets up into the podium, the sprint podium positions, getting ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. As on lap 2, Liam Lawson has a mechanical failure. He is the first retirement of this sprint and of this United States Grand Prix weekend, as we are now trying to get ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. However, he kind of sits right on the racing line. He then makes us go really tight, and we actually get overtaken by Albon. So we go from making a move up to P7, but we end up falling down to P9. So so far, things not looking too great for us. We're not quite able to make the moves we're hoping for. As the battle between Tsunoda and Russell continues, Tsunoda yet to get a podium in Formula 1, racing for Red Bull, of course. He hasn't had a podium in his career yet, and he's now trying to get past Russell for that P3, and he did manage to get past on that occasion. However, next lap around, Russell gets straight back past him again, so he's not going to give up easily, is he, as Norris and Antonelli are there battling behind as well. We continue on, struggling for pace quite a bit here, actually. We are really struggling for pace down into P9. Hülkenberg and Albon are fighting each other, and Oscar Piastri is going to come down the inside of us. We're not going to fight that one too hard. Of course, McLaren, Piastri somewhat in a title fight here. Oh, actually, yes, you'll see in the bottom right there, I've actually got a DRS issue as well this race, so we don't have DRS to use. That is making it pretty difficult on these long straights. There are a couple of long DRS straights here at COTA, and yeah, we're really struggling because we don't have DRS. We've now been overtaken by Lewis Hamilton. As Hülkenberg finally kind of loses out to Albon, and then is going to be under attack from Piastri, trying to get up into the points here to keep anything alive. He's been pretty firmly third in the championship this entire season, had a couple of wins over Norris at the midpoint of the season, but yeah, unfortunately hasn't really been able to plant the title fight that he has in real life, as he's fighting tooth and nail here with Nico Hülkenberg to get up into P8 to just get 1 point in this sprint race. It wouldn't be what he would have wanted, but 1 point's better than none. Hülkenberg's really fighting this though, but Piastri does eventually get past and up into 8th position, but great defending from Hülkenberg. He's only scored 1 point so far. Both Saubers have scored a point each, so yeah, he's looking to double his point tally at least, as Hamilton is on the charge and he has actually now gotten past Hülkenberg and also Oscar Piastri. And then as we head on to lap 8 of 10, Leclerc's been leading this race the entire time and has been way out in front, but Verstappen, as he always does, has now caught up to Leclerc, not quite able to get past him on the start of lap 8 here, but on the same lap as they head down the big back straight, he has DRS. These guys are way ahead of everyone else, and he's going to try and swoop around the outside. Leclerc will go later on the brakes into that corner, almost shove Verstappen off the track, but Verstappen will get through and take the lead of this sprint race. He's the one who won the only sprint race so far this season in China. It was actually his first win of the season. Can he go and win the second sprint race here in the USA? As Piastri now getting past, or trying to get past, Albon, who, yeah, is actually, I think maybe, I don't know if Albon actually was past, I'm not sure actually. I think maybe Hamilton has got past Albon and now Piastri's got past Albon to put him up to the points once again. Oh, that's my phone dinging, sorry about that, I forgot to put it on silent. But yeah, we come to the end of this race. We did catch up to Hülkenberg right at the end, but unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. It's going to be P11 for us. Of course, P10 doesn't score any points in the sprint anyway. We've actually not lost out on any points there. But a little bit of a disappointing sprint, I will be honest. I was hoping for more. Getting points would have been difficult here. For sure, you have to pretty much be the best of the rest. But the fact that we're behind Hülkenberg, I think, is a bit of a letdown. We should have at least been ahead of him. Albon being ahead of us, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I think at least P10 would have been nice, but it's P11 for us. Verstappen wins the sprint race ahead of Leclerc and Russell. Norris in P4. Tsunoda, in the end, actually loses out to Norris and ends up P5. So after looking at a potential sprint podium, Tsunoda is only going to come home in 5th position. And then, yeah, it's basically the top 4 teams in the top 8 positions. So everything that you kind of would usually expect. As now we get into the main qualifying event, into Q1 here, and yeah, just going for this as fast as we can. Now, of course, on the soft tyres, we were on the mediums for at least SQ1 and SQ2, on the softs for SQ3, but yep, once again feeling pretty good in these conditions. The car is feeling good, it's feeling nice. We're down in P12 at the moment, so looking pretty safe, and we're actually not, we're right on the bubble of whether we're going any quicker. I think I had a slower sector 1 here, but I think sectors 2 and 3 I made up time. We ended up going P13 in the end, and actually O'Sullivan pulls out a P16, so he also gets through to Q2. So we've got both cars into Q2 once again. It's a better performance from him from what he had in SQ1. So both cars in Q2 is good to see as we now get into that Q2 session. And my fastest lap, you can see the sun really in a bad spot. There's a certain time where, yeah, the sun really gets in your eyes, and we're actually going to come across a little bit of traffic here. Piastri just about gets out of the way. It's a little bit hairy there to get past him, but he does let us pass. We're now potentially, though, going to have a bit of dirty air behind Yuki Tsunoda. He's the car ahead. I'm not sure if he's going to let us pass now. He's winding up. Oh, no, he is. He is going to go to the inside. That's actually not going to affect us really at all. Maybe a bit of dirty air through those tight corners, so that wouldn't have helped massively, but we are going to come through without any real issues on this Q2 lap. However, it would be my first lap that would be my quickest. we end up going P8. So we're once again into Q3. O'Sullivan P14 as well. I'm pretty happy about that. He's ahead of Alonso and Ocon, so that's good to see. Oscar Piastri out in Q2 again though. Piastri is not having a good time. Now that McLaren has considerably fallen off a cliff with its pace, Piastri's really starting to struggle, as now we have our Q3 lap and you can see that there are clouds. There are some fairly dark clouds out in the sky. Well, that is because there is rain expected in this Q3 session, so I've got out as quick as I can. I believe we're the second car on track. A Mercedes ahead of us is the only car ahead of us on track, so we just wanted to get out as soon as we could, because I believe any second now you'll start seeing some drops of rain on the camera. Yep, they're just starting to come in now. I think I just saw one basically where the front left tire is there. A few little drops starting to come down, so we need to finish this lap to get the best possible position, and this could really have an effect on where we start this race, because people starting behind us could end up struggling with a slightly wet track on dry tires, or if they haven't gone out really early, they might not get a decent dry lap at all. So as we come towards the end of our lap, you can really see now that the rain is starting to trickle down the camera, and we're starting to feel the effects of the grip a little bit. Only a little bit at the moment, but it is definitely coming down, which means that for people behind me, it is going to be a real struggle as we go across the line here around the final corner. Russell goes fastest. That's going to put him in a great position. We go P2. In the end, it is P3. We're almost a second off Russell, but we have qualified P3 for the United States Grand Prix because of the weather. It's Russell from Hamilton, from Aaron, from Leclerc, Antonelli, Verstappen only just beating Tsunoda, then Norris, Sainz and Gasly. A very exciting top 10. We're third, our best qualifying position of this entire career so far. So let's see what we can do.
Here we are then in one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, the fabulous Austin in the great state of Texas. The circuit itself, 14 miles southeast of the city centre, has been home to the US Grand Prix since 2012, the latest in a long list of iconic tracks to have that honour. We're racing then today in Travis County, Texas, around the 20 corners of this wonderful Circuit of the Americas. We'll be reaching speeds of around 200 miles per hour here today, and there are plenty of good opportunities to pass, especially through the 2 DRS zones into Turn 1 and the long back straight into Turn 12. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Aaron, Leclerc, Andrea Kimi Antonelli and Verstappen, Tsunoda, Norris, Sainz and Pierre Gasly, Hülkenberg, Piastri, Alex Albon and Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Behrman, Isaac Hadjar and Jack Doohan, O'Sullivan, Bortoletto, Stroll and Liam Lawson rounds off the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. And alongside me for this afternoon's commentary, Naomi Schiff. Good afternoon, Gnomes. And let's talk momentum with this driver. What a sprint it was. They start at 0 once again for today, but with a huge amount of confidence, surely. Well, they'll definitely be glad that there's not a sprint race today. Let's face it, the sprint couldn't have gone much worse, but what we're looking for today is a reaction. Look, we know it's not where you start, it's where you finish, but let's talk about the start now. What's there to help the drivers get away well?
Well, the race is certainly not won in the first lap, let alone turn 1. However, what you can do is prepare yourself ahead of time. Visualize what could potentially happen, different scenarios and where you could place your car, and that will better prepare you to make the right decision with instinctive timing.
Unfortunately, despite having a decent qualifying, Zach O'Sullivan has a grid penalty, so he's down in P19, which is very unfortunate. I don't know why he's taking a grid penalty. We only did one for him 2 races ago, so must have had another issue. As we get underway from P3 already, Leclerc's getting past us into turn 1, and Verstappen has had an absolute rocket ship of a start. He started in P7. He's now battling Hamilton for P2. What a start from Max Verstappen. I didn't actually even notice that until I was just watching through the grid, the starting grid. I didn't realize how far back Verstappen started. He hasn't got past Hamilton. He's currently P3, but what a start for Hamilton, P7 to P3. I would have done an onboard kind of, or a replay of some kind if I had seen that earlier on, but unfortunately I hadn't. So there will be no replay of Verstappen's start, but it has been a mega start for the championship leader and of course defending champion from 2024. We're down to P5. We've lost 2 positions at the start to Verstappen and Leclerc, but I'm not too worried about that. I was not expecting at all to stay in P3. Getting a podium at this point in our career with where the car is not really realistic, so you know, falling down to P5 is not an issue. As long as we can stay within the top 10 this race, I'd be pretty happy with that. Just taking away a point or 2 would be pretty good. As we continue on, Antonelli is the car behind us. He's looking decent once again. Russell, of course, had the better qualifying. He qualified on pole position. But, yeah, it has been a decent weekend so far for the other Mercedes driver. As we come round the final corner in P5, Russell goes quickest because he's leading the way. And then it's Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc. We're going to have a look at Carlos Sainz, who is looking pretty quick in that Williams. That isn't a massive distance off the McLaren on pace at the moment. A little bit behind, you know, they're just ahead of us, but he actually gets past Lando Norris, just showing you how far the McLarens have dropped. They are now P9 and P11, so not looking great for McLaren. As Verstappen, after a good start, is also seemingly struggling a little bit there. Despite, I believe, having DRS from Leclerc ahead, he gets overtaken by... having DRS from Hamilton, he gets overtaken by Leclerc there, so he's now down to P4. As Antonelli gets past us into turn 1, we didn't have DRS on the car ahead, and we had a bit of a slide around the final corner, so that didn't help us. He soon gets out of DRS range from us as well. And now we've got Yuki Tsunoda in the other Red Bull right behind. He's not having as good of a time as he did in the sprint. Of course, he was fighting for a podium then. He's just got himself up into P6 by getting past us. Once again, we're not going to fight that one massively. Fighting a Red Bull isn't something that we really should be trying to do. And it makes sense because he's already got almost 2 seconds ahead of us as we head to the next lap or 2. And it's now Carlos Sainz, a car that we should be able to fight with a little bit more. So we try and hold around the outside, but he does a great bit of defending, or great bit of attacking, I guess, and car placement. He does get ahead of us. We will manage to just about stay with him, though. And as we head around the final corner, Carlos Sainz goes for a spin around the final corner. He's kept it out of walls and out of other cars, but he has gone for a spin around the final corner. And that's actually going to bring out the safety car, but we'll have a look on board here. Just puts the throttle on too much around that corner. Straight off the track he goes. Thankfully, he gets out of the way of everybody else to not cause any collisions. But now the safety car is out, and my team have told me to come in for a set of softs. So I was a little bit bemused by this. And we end up having a slow pit stop, which is not what we wanted. And I also find out that we're not on a new set of softs because we didn't have a new set of soft tyres to go onto for the race. It was going to be just a one stop from mediums to hards, both brand new tyres, of course. We're now on a slightly used set of softs. I think they're like 15% worn. So I don't know if this was really the strategy to go for, but it's what my team wanted me to do, so it's what I've done. On the restart, Verstappen's lost a few positions due to chaos in the pit lane, but he got past Norris instantly. As soon as they crossed the line, he had the better run, and he got past Lando Norris. So, yeah, Verstappen already trying to make moves back up again as the grid is now a little bit all over the place with the chaos in the pits. Nico Hülkenberg then goes for a dive up the inside. He didn't have as good of a qualifying as he did in sprint qualifying, but he's still trying to get past us here and is showing that he's pretty quick in that Sauber. He also probably has a brand new set of softs that he is on because he came in for softs. Some people came in, some people stayed out on the mediums. But yeah, because he didn't get into Q3, he probably had a brand new set of softs to go. So that is giving him an advantage. As at the front, it is Hamilton versus Russell, the two former teammates, of course, from last season and a few seasons before that. But this time it's Mercedes versus Ferrari, and it is Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari who gets up into the lead of this United States Grand Prix. As now, lap 14, we come into the pits a little bit earlier, I think, than expected. But yeah, the soft tyre was just completely shot at, and I'm now wondering if that was not the best strategy to go for. We end up having a bit of a double stack with our teammate there, so that may not help him out massively. But we are the lead car, he's not fighting for points, so we're just going to do it. We are just ahead of Alonso now as we come out of the pits onto our hard tyres. Verstappen still trying to make moves in this race, and he actually makes his move ahead of Hamilton to the effective race lead. The two drivers ahead of him were Ocon and Hadjar. They hadn't pit yet, they have now. So now Verstappen is into the lead from P7 to the lead. Leclerc then gets past his teammate of Hamilton into the large braking zone and up into second. And now Hamilton is starting to lose pace. He was looking quick in the midpoint of this race and at the start, but now he's starting to lose positions, and Tsunoda is gaining them. He gets up into P3, so Tsunoda is fighting for a podium yet again. This is twice in a row this weekend in the sprint and in the Grand Prix that Tsunoda is fighting for a podium, but this one would be a proper podium, so he would love to keep that position. And at the moment, he's got a decent buffer over the cars behind. We're currently sitting in P9. We've got Alonso P10. He's 3.5 seconds back, and we're showing some good pace on these hards. That middle stint with the softs was not great for us, but now we're on fresh hards. We have some good pace, and we're getting away from Alonso and actually trying to catch the two McLarens ahead in P7 and P8. And it is 2x2 with the Mercedes and the McLarens as Russell gets past Antonelli and up into P5. He's really lost out in this race. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but yeah, it's not gone well for Russell. Went from being in the lead to now, yeah, fighting with Hamilton for P4 this time. So he's gotten past Antonelli. He's now once again fighting with his teammates. And they're having a really good battle, actually. Hamilton's still there on the inside trying to keep the position. Russell, though, round the outside on the curbs, doing some great battle, and he will get up into P4. And he now has 2 laps to make up just over 1.5 seconds to Tsunoda in P3. And he's going to do that. Lap 28 of 28, the final lap of this race. Russell is going to deny Yuki Tsunoda his first podium in Formula 1. Yuki Tsunoda, who is retiring at the end of this season, as crazy as that may sound, he may go without a podium in his F1 career. As on the final lap as well, we catch up to Piastri. He's really struggling on this final lap. We're going to use as much DRS and ERS as we can. Can we overtake a McLaren on track? To the outside we go. That gives him the very tight inside line, but he has good grip and he's going to still be there on the outside. We then go deep into the next corner. He tries to cut in the inside of us, but he's not able to do it. We're going to beat Piastri and we're going to come home in P8. So it's good. It's nowhere near where we started up in P3, but I'm still going to take P8. 4 points here from this Texas Grand Prix race weekend, and beating a McLaren, getting past a McLaren on track. That is something that I didn't expect to be saying at the start of this season, but yeah, once again, points in the bag for Paul Aron and TGL Motorsport.
And in the end, there was no Verstappen. Max Verstappen, he takes victory.
It's one thing to put fast laps together, but to make these moves stick without losing too much time, that's real racecraft.
What a day it's been for Formula One, and what a day it's been for these 3 drivers. Time for the podium celebrations. Time for our drivers to celebrate. But there can only be one on the top step. Your number 1, Max Verstappen.
Of course, it's another win from Max Verstappen. A great win for him this time as well, actually. Went from P7 to P1. What a result for him. After a difficult qualifying, he still prevails. He's showing how quick he is in that Red Bull. And yep, he beats home Charles Leclerc on the podium once again. He's making a habit of that these last few races. And George Russell gets up to P3, so he'll be happy with that as well. As Tsunoda comes home P4 in that race, Hamilton P5. It is then Antonelli P6, because these results here are just the whole weekend results. Norris ends up in P7, then Aaron P8, Piastri P9, and Fernando Alonso coming home for that final point in P10. So that is a decent result for Aston Martin, at least getting 1 point, but they would have been hoping for more for sure. Verstappen, he extends his lead again to 54 points over Lando Norris. Now it's looking ever less likely that he's going to win this championship, but crucially, Charles Leclerc moves ahead of Oscar Piastri. So Piastri is no longer P3 in this championship. He has been taken over by Charles Leclerc. That could be big as well. And in the Constructors' Championship, it is really hotting up. McLaren now only 28 points ahead of Red Bull in this championship. Ferrari is still very much in this as well, 75 points behind McLaren. So it is really any of those top three's game to get the Constructors' Championship trophy. We are P9. We gain a few points there. 23 points now, just 2 points behind Alpine. So it is starting to get a little bit closer in that mid to back end pack once again. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.